But okay, so thank you for dialing in early. There's loads of people dialed in now, which is amazing. Let's get cracking. And I don't know if about you, but when I was at school, people used to say to me, practice makes perfect. And I don't know that it ever really sat well with me at the time, but I don't think I ever really understood why. Until later in life, I realized that there is no such thing as perfect. If you read anything from Dr. Bob Rotella, who's a golf psychologist, he talks about the fact that golf is not a game of perfect. And in fact, life is not a game of perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. Life is a game of progress. So what we want to be doing is we want to be making progress, not perfection. And so that's a bit about what I want to spend time talking about this morning, is about how we can make progress but not get caught up with perfection. And it is also about talking about how we can use coaching to get better, because all the best athletes have a coach. You know, Tiger Woods at his absolute peak, probably not there at the moment, but at his absolute peak, he always had a coach. The power of having a coach is how we all get better. So why have you dialed into this this webinar? Well, maybe you're thinking, you know, could I make more money in my practice than I currently am? You know, am I really making all of the rewards for the work that I put in? And perhaps you're wondering about that work-life balance piece. Perhaps you're working every hour God sends, and there just seems to be this ever expanding workflow, you know, to-do list that never really seems to get fully done, and eats into all of the things that are probably most important to you in life. And perhaps some of the fun has been drained out of the business. You maybe got into this business or giving advice on the premise of having this wonderful lifestyle with doing all of the things that you enjoy. And perhaps you're bogged down writing letters and a lot of stuff that you really didn't get into the game for. And I think this has probably been exaggerated over the last couple of years, is that a lot of fun has been drained out of the business. Well, just for a minute, I'd like you to imagine a time where you're making more money than you know what to do with. And that's because your business is generating more and more leads, this constant flow of leads and quality leads that you'd really, you know, you almost don't know how to deal with that many clients. So imagine that is the first problem that you have, and it'd be a lovely problem to have for many people. But also imagine you're doing that at a time where you have all the free time that you want, all the free time to spend with, you know, if you've got children, watching them grow up, doing the activities that you love, but also having the time to look after your own health. And finally, also imagine that not only are you making amazing money and you're only working the times that you want to work, but imagine when you're at work, you're only doing the stuff that you absolutely love. So actually every day at work is a pleasure. So if that's what you're, if that's what we're aspiring to be, what are we looking for? Well, ultimately, I think that we're looking to try and generate what I called entrepreneurial happiness. But why is this important? Well, you know, we really only get one shot at life, don't we? You know, we've got to make sure that that life is packed full of all the things that are most important to us. And that also involves us being able to look after ourselves physically as well as mentally, because ultimately, you know, if we don't, we can have wealth, we can have power, but if we don't have our health, what use is any of that? And as I alluded to just right in my ramblings before we started, we all have approximately 4,000 weeks on Earth. So it's really important that we make the most of those, and we're not spending that time bogged down with stuff that we really don't like, or we actually get less than 4,000 weeks because we neglect some of the most important elements of keeping ourselves in great shape. And you may be asking, well, but why is now the right time to do this? Well, ultimately, now is the right time because I think COVID has been a real wake-up call for many people. You know, am I going to spend the next 20 years of my life doing this job or in this particular way, or living my life like this, or neglecting my health? And despite what we hear in the news constantly about, you know, the negative stuff that is coming down the pipeline, we actually live in a time of abundance. We live in a time of abundance of technology, of information. We live in an amazingly abundant time, the best time that there's ever been to be alive. And so all of those resources are available to us to make a better life. And that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about this morning. But some of you may be asking, well, who is Charlie Redding? Why on earth would I listen to him on this subject? So before I go into any of the details, I just want to give you a little bit of background on me. And to start that, I want to take you to, it was 1999, I'm looking over Kalgoorlie Bay in Perth, Western Australia, the sun setting, and the sea is calm, because I'm at the house of my Uncle Bill. Now, my Uncle Bill was like this David Hasselhoff character that I was meeting for the first time on my travels. And Uncle Bill said something along the line, and you have to forgive my rubbish accents here, but he said, "Hey, Charlie, how was your first day in Australia?" It's like, "Bill, it's been absolutely amazing. You've taken me around those incredible houses that you've developed and sold. And it's just been a million miles away from life growing up on the farm or at university, or even from the traveling I've just done in Africa. This seems so different." But I said, well, what really stands out to me is, you've got this incredible house, and yet you filled it with all these amazing artifacts from all around, Australia and the world. How have you managed to do that whilst setting up this incredibly successful business? He said, well, Charlie, I take 3 months of every year off, and I travel both Australia and the world. I said, 3 months, Bill? You can't take that. I thought there was a law against that. Once you finished university, I thought you only got 25 days holiday. He said, well, Charlie, if you work for somebody else, they set the rules. But if you work for yourself, you set the rules. And that was like, as I traveled around the rest of the world, that was like a seed growing inside me. Because whilst I'd grown up in an entrepreneurial farming family, it hadn't really clicked until that moment. And so after my travels, I fell into the world of financial services, almost by mistake, but on a self-employed basis, with the words of Uncle Bill ringing in my ear. And it was just a year or so into my financial services career that I got some earth-shattering news. And that was that Uncle Bill had taken his own life. This guy that I'd held up on this pedestal as having the perfect life. He'd got money, he'd got success, he'd got time to travel Australia and the world. It's clearly something was wrong. So I want to fast forward now to the year of 2012, and it's the XL Arena in London, Docklands. And I'm at an event called Unleash the Power Within, which is most famous for its fireworks. So over the course of those 4 days, you walk across burning hot coals. And it's the most famous event by a guy called Tony Robbins, who's this massive American, 6'7" American guy. He's got teeth bigger than I am. And we're at this event called Unleash the Power Within, which I can only describe as being a bit like being in the occult. There's people standing on chairs, dancing, shouting. Being a traditional Brit, this was quite difficult to deal with at the start. But it actually wasn't the firework that made the greatest impact on me during those 4 days. It was what gets called the Dickens Process. And in the Dickens Process, we stood there in the darkness, surrounded by 6,000 people. And those people are screaming, yelling, crying. And out of the darkness is coming Tony's voice of, I want you to imagine what your life will look like 20 years from now. What decisions are you making now that are going to impact that life 20 years from now? Because it's in our moments of decision, our destiny's shaped. I'm like, right, okay, this is deep. But I started thinking back, because 5 years prior to that, I'd set up Efficient Portfolio to be the best financial planning company that I could make it. And it was doing really well. It was going from strength to strength. But then when I thought about the decisions I was making at that time, I realized that actually I was in the worst shape I'd ever been. I was 3 stone overweight. I was doing no exercise. I was working every hour God sends. And yeah, the business was doing well, but it wasn't doing as well as I'd actually hoped at that point. So what Tony got us to do was think about, well, what's the impact of carrying on that journey for the next 20 years? And all I could imagine was I'd got this vision of being in this 1-bedroom flat surrounded by pizza boxes, weighing 20 stone. My wife and children had left me. The business had folded. And all because I'd carried on making the same decisions I was making at that time. And Tony said something really important while during that 4 days. He said, if you make the same decisions today as you made yesterday, you'll get the same results tomorrow as you got today. So what decisions are you making today, but expecting a different result from? So I left Unleash the Power Within with this new enthusiasm and vigor. I totally remodeled my working life. So very quickly, I got up to 3 months of the year off, like my Uncle Bill. Totally rethought my approach to health. And since then, I've done Ironmans, ultra marathons, and I'm 3 stone lighter than I was at that time. I went on to have the first of my 4 books published, which was in 2015, The Dream Retirement. And that book, The Dream Retirement, led on to a bit of a roller coaster of success for us as a business. I started getting featured on national radio, cover of industry magazines, on the TV as well. And it all culminated in Efficient Portfolio being awarded top financial planning practice across the whole of the Midlands by our most respected industry journal. But I don't tell you this to impress you. There's nothing special about me. Why I tell you about it is to give you a little bit of context on the journey that I've been on. Because what I also think about is that actually, yes, okay, life is about the science of achievement, and it's about achieving the goals that we want along the way. But it is also about the art of fulfillment, which is probably more difficult for most of us as entrepreneurs. And that, I think, is where my Uncle Bill ultimately had gone wrong. And so on my journey, I really discovered that if you want to master entrepreneurial happiness, there's really 3 key areas to success. There's firstly, money. You've got to have the money coming into the business, because if you don't, then you can't employ the person that you want to employ. You can't employ the marketing strategy you want to employ. You also can't live the life that you want and deserve. So you've got to get the money flowing into the business really well. Then there's the time element. Time is probably our most valuable resource, or not probably, it almost certainly is our most valuable resource. And if you don't have time, you don't have time to look after your own health and well-being. You don't have time to spend with the most important people in your life. And you don't have time to do the things that are most important to you. So you've got to get that work-life balance, that time element right. But the final thing is, you've got to love what you do. We spend so much time at work. You've got to genuinely enjoy what you do when you're there. Otherwise, it just becomes a mundane experience. And so when I wrote the book Entrepreneurial Happiness, I looked back at all of the different courses and books I'd read over the preceding years and tried to pick out the most important elements that had helped me on each of those 3 steps. And for the money element, I created the Profitable Business Plan, which is this 4-step model to really generating more business, more leads into the business, but also making the most of the money that does come into the business. Then I developed the Free Life Business Model, which was a 5-step approach to really mastering your time as a professional in practice or as an entrepreneur, and really kind of getting the most out of your time, but also making sure that you have all of the time to do all the things that are really important to you outside of work. And then finally, with regards to the fun element of the business, I created the Epic Business Blueprint, which is a 4-step guide to kind of really loving what you do in your working life. And so this morning, I just want to pick out one element from each of these areas, because clearly we haven't got time to cover the whole thing. And so to start with, I wanted to talk a little bit about partnerships, one of the elements of the Profitable Business Plan, because I think that the partnerships is one of the key areas that I want to talk to you about within the concept of the trusted team. So when Steve Jobs was creating the offices for Pixar, he was creating this massive new office for Pixar, having just had the success of Toy Story and their IPO. It's like, right, we need to put them in an amazing new facility. And so what he did was he designed it all around a central atrium. So instead of having toilets dotted around, in multiple different parts of the offices, and maybe post boxes in multiple different parts of the offices close to where people would be sitting in different departments, he put all of those things around the one central atrium. Because what he knew was that actually part of the power was when the marketing guy was chatting to the guy from animation or the finance guy over, around the water cooler or over a coffee, that actually, ideas have sex. And that's where kind of different ideas were grown out of. And I honestly believe that's about sort of trying to nurture partnerships within a business that wouldn't have ordinarily been created. And I believe that is a really important element for us as professionals in practice and as entrepreneurs. And that's because the classic example I can give you with our business is that historically, a client would have a solicitor, they'd have an accountant, and they'd have a financial planner. But none of those professionals talk to each other. So the client gets advice from all sources and then is sort of left stuck in the middle going, well, actually, that potentially conflicts with that. It doesn't really kind of work so well. And they're the ones that are making it makes puts the client in a much more difficult position. Whereas for a long time, I've been talking about the concept of the trusted team approach. And that's where all of the trusted advisors of a particular client work together, bringing all of their expertise into the fold. Classic example of this is inheritance tax planning, where the solicitor, the financial planner, and the accountant are all involved. They bring all of their expertise to the table, work together, and the client gets a far better end solution. But not only that these financial planners are all looking for the same, these financial planners, accountants, solicitors are all potentially looking for and looking after the same clients. So this partnership element we can do so much more in business if we can make these partnerships work. And I'll just explain a little bit about how, having worked with other professionals on strategic partnerships in our financial planning business over the years, some of the secrets to the success of making these work. So the first one is to have a very clearly defined process, what I call in entrepreneurial happiness, the phenomenal process. So you've got to, in your business, have a phenomenal process, an element of which, I'll talk about creating this within your business in one of the modules in the future on the trusted team. But it's really important that you have that clearly defined process so that anybody and an understanding of the benefit of each steps, because that way any other professional can explain to their clients how you can help them. It's really important it's not just about you explaining to the accountant how you can help their clients. It's also about the accountant then relaying it on. So really simple, but also powerful process in your business is really important. But it also gives you an opportunity to work more closely with that strategic relationship. And ultimately, strategic relationships and partnerships are all about finding people that have the same clients as you do, but that aren't in competition with you. So that doesn't have to be, in financial planning, the obvious example was solicitors, accountants. If I'd done mortgages, we have a mortgage business, so clearly estate agency is much better for them. But in your practice and business, you will see other businesses that deal with the same clients as you, but that aren't in competition with you. And one of the things that I think that you should do to try and start that relationship working is going, well, okay, what benefit can I give that partner that they can give to their clients? So we always said that the accountant or the solicitor could give their clients a free exploration meeting worth £297 to their clients. So that immediately makes them look good in front of their client, which is great for them. And the client also feels like they're getting a benefit. So how can you make your partner feel good in front of their client? What can you give away for free that will make them look good? Now, another really powerful thing to do in building partnerships is you've really got to help them, the partner, understand the benefit of what you do for clients. And so there's two principles here. The first is you've got to really help them understand the benefit of what you do for their clients. The other thing is you really want to give them, as a potential strategic partner, an extra perk. So one of the things that we always did was we gave any partner of a firm that could potentially introduce clients to us a free financial plan worth up to £3,000. Now, if somebody came into you and said, I'm willing to give you £3,000, will you help, will you introduce me to a few of your clients? Then it becomes a whole lot more compelling argument than just, please introduce me to your clients. But in addition to that, they genuinely get to see the benefit of the work that we're doing by witnessing it firsthand on their own financial situation. So a free partner financial plan was how we could do it. But the question you need to be asking yourself is, what can I give away for free to the partner to kind of build that relationship? And also, how can I really demonstrate to that person the value of what we do for clients? Two really important questions. The next thing that I think you've got to be asking yourself in this process is, what can we do to make the flow of clients really, really easy? How can we keep front of mind? Because what's going to happen, I guarantee you, you're going to have a great conversation with a new potential partner. It's all going to sound fantastic. You're going to go back to your desks. You're going to have full inboxes, and it's all going to be forgotten. So how can you regularly build in getting back to front of mind? Because what I found in working with partners is it's actually not a reluctance to introduce clients to each other. It's often just they're so busy with a day job, it doesn't even crop up. And so actually we used to do quarterly hot topic meetings and clinics with partners of firms that we worked with, because that was a quick way of going, right, this is some of the things that we're helping clients with at the moment. That immediately jogs their memory of, oh, right, okay, yes, I was dealing with so-and-so last week and they could do with that help. But again, it's just coming back and getting back in front of them regularly, but in a way that's adding value, because they also then know that if they're sitting in front of a different client next week, they go, oh, right, actually, have you thought about this? Because I was chatting to the financial planner that helps our clients, and he mentioned that this might be a thing at the moment. So you're adding value to their proposition, as well as jogging their memory to help it make it really easy to make those introductions. And another great way that you can add value to what they do and also meet more of their clients to do joint client events. Whether that's wine tasting, whether that's a golf day. If 2 or even 3 firms say we're going to do a golf day and we're each going to invite a handful of our clients, that means that, let's say there's 3 firms doing that, means that 2/3 of the people you're meeting on that event are not your clients, but are potentially your clients. So it's such a fantastic way of bringing more people together, as well as adding value to the clients that you already have by inviting them to a golf day. Another way that you can actually get people introducing or allow you to introduce your clients to partners and vice versa, other than the golf day. So the golf day is a great way to do it. But one of the other things that we used to do was have what we called the referral dinner. So the referral dinner was a thank you meal that for any clients that introduce us to other clients, we would invite them for a really lovely meal once a year. But that's, again, something that you can do to say thank you to those professional partnerships that you've developed, because that's about bringing them into the fold and allowing them to meet some of your best clients. So you just got to think about, okay, how can I add value and kind of spend more quality time with those professionals? Because the more quality time you spend with them, whether that be playing golf or having Michelin star food, and the more opportunity you can take to introduce them to other of your contacts, the better that will be. And one of the other things that you've got to do in having successful partnerships is you've got to make it really, really easy for people to make introductions to you. So we basically always say that we have 3 ideal clients. The ideal client concept is something that we'll talk about in the trusted team. But basically, you've got to have the right fit client of that's what you've got to be searching for. We've got 3 right fit clients. One is entrepreneurs. So if you're sitting in front of an accountant or a solicitor, and you're an entrepreneur, then we want, we know that we can add value to your situation. So what we do is we have easy giveaways for that particular right fit client. We have the book, Entrepreneurial Happiness. We give those to accountants and solicitors and other partnerships for free, so they can give them to potential clients. We also have a webinar and a seminar called the Business Planning Breakfast, which is all about financial planning for business owners. And we have a digital tool as well. So we have a really easy one for entrepreneurs. For people over the age of 65, we again have a book, The Life Legacy Gift. We have seminars and webinars called the Leaving a Legacy Lunch. And again, we have a digital tool. And then finally, for people in the lead up to retirement, our third right fit client, then we have, again, the book, The Dream Retirement. We have a seminar and webinar called the Dream Retirement Dinner. And we have the digital tool, the 2-Minute Retirement Plan. So again, you just got to make it really easy for the partner to know exactly what your right fit clients are, and really easy ways for them to make that introduction. And then finally, think about what you can do to add value to those partnerships. And one of the things that we used to do, we don't do it anymore, is the Breakthrough Business Breakfast, which again was just a way of facilitating. It was kind of like a kind of little step towards what we're doing with the trusted team, which I'll tell you about shortly. But essentially, it was a chat over breakfast, a coaching principle, but also an opportunity to network with like-minded businesses. So if you are going to build partnerships with other businesses that have the same clients as you, but that aren't in competition with you, you've really got to think through, okay, how can I add value to them? What can I give them for free? And also, how can I make it really easy for them to pass the right fit clients to us? And if you do that and you get back in front of them regularly, you will build stronger and stronger relationships. And it will mean that you don't have to spend your time marketing, because you'll have a team of other professionals marketing essentially on the quiet, passively for you. It really is incredibly powerful, an incredibly powerful way to grow your business. So I hope there was some sort of insight in there from how you can use partnerships to grow your business further. I now want to dive into one principle from the Free Life business model. The Free Life business model, if you'd forgotten, was all about the time, the work-life balance. And one of the keys to success in getting your work-life balance back is to delegate more. And my wife used to run a cookery business. And therefore, at the time, there was an awful lot of cooking TV shows going on in our living room. And one of the ones that I remember seeing, it was Raymond Blanc, proprietor of Le Manoir, 3 Michelin star chef. And he was producing it was a TV program, and he was producing, can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some sort of canapé. And it was a very detailed little thing. And what really stood out to me was he was making this canapé, but he had the fridge, of which contained obviously some of the components of this canapé, was sort of 1.5 meters behind him. But when he needed something from the fridge, he didn't go to the fridge. He had a person that went to the fridge for him. So he was never doing anything other than the construction of the canapé. And he had somebody going backwards and forwards from the fridge, passing the different bits that he needed as and when he needed it. So his unique ability, to use strategic coach terms, is to be making the canapé. So it's absolutely vital that he does the most amount of that he possibly can, and he doesn't get distracted by anything else. Now, in our business world, that might be sitting in front of clients as opposed to writing letters or something like that. But whatever it is that is our element, if we use Ken Robinson's terms, it's really important that we do the most of that we possibly can. And back before my daughters turned into teenagers, and back when they laughed at my jokes, one of the jokes they used to laugh at most was, so there's a girl standing on the corner of a street with a violin case under her arm. And she stops at an elderly gentleman, says, "Excuse me, sir, please could you tell me the way to the Royal Concert Hall?" And he replies, "Practice, practice, practice." Now, it's not the best joke I ever tell, but the principle behind it is actually really powerful, because life is about practice, practice, practice. And when we focus on what I said, Sir Ken Robinson talks about element, or the late Ken Robinson, amazing speaker, and amazing books as well. But he talks about our element. And our element is that thing that we love and that we're really good at. And in schools, he talks about it from an education point of view, and how our schools are not really very good at helping us find our element. They're quite good at churning out lots of people that are average at lots of things, as opposed to churning out people that are amazing at one or two things. But ultimately, that's where they're most valued in the world, when they are really great at one or two things. Now, in business, we all know that there are tasks that we're really, really good at and we really, really enjoy. You get to the end of one of those days, and I can't remember the author's exact name, but it's Mihail Chetmy or something, that wrote the book Flow. But when you've been in flow, you've come out of a meeting or come out of a day and you're like, bang, I've done this. Oh, it's been amazing. I've been in my element. I've been in flow. And the thing is that we need more of those days and more of that time. And delegation is the key to getting it. We've got to delegate all of those things that aren't the bit that we're amazing at and the bit that we love, because that is the bit that is you are most profitable. That's almost always the most profitable element of what you do. And the more you can delegate of everything else, the quicker your business will grow, but also the more more free time you will generate. It really is no surprise that the more time I took off in our business, the more successful we got. The business grew exponentially faster and faster the less time I was willing to put into it, because I was forced to delegate everything other than the bits that I was best at. And there's a brilliant thing that happens here is when you focus on doing your element, you increase the amount of practice that you get. There's a term that Anders Ericsson put out there called purposeful practice, and that is exactly what you get when you only do that one thing and you spend all of your time doing it day after day after day. You become amazing at it, way better than your competition, because you're getting purposeful practice in the bit that's most important to you and your business. It really is incredibly powerful. And so delegation, so that you can focus on your element, is absolutely vital. And in this day and age, that doesn't mean that you have to hire a team of people. Yes, you can hire them and bring them in-house, and that is often the best way to do it. But you can also outsource this help now. Whether that be, you want somebody that can do the video editing, or you want a virtual assistant. There's incredible resources like Upwork, where you can have a team of people that, one might be based in the Philippines, we've had people based in Philippines, Argentina, the US, India, all working for us as part of our team through Upwork over the years. So it can be, but it's an incredibly powerful way of doing things, because you don't have to have a full-time job for somebody. You can just say, well, look, I've got like 6 hours of video editing a month that needs doing. Right, okay, find somebody in abroad that can do that much more cheaply. I need a virtual assistant that really, sometimes having different time zones works really, really well, because you can fire off a load of work at 5 o'clock as you leave the office. And then by 9 o'clock, when you get back into the office, it's all done, sat there ready and waiting. So that can be really, really powerful. And in fact, one of the things I will mention later on is a new business where we're going to help you outsource and delegate a lot of your work, called Accelerate. But I'll come back to that later on. One of the things I definitely think you should outsource is your inbox. Do you remember historically, before the invention of email, you'd get your communication would come in by letter, and you'd get one lot of letters in each day. They never came in on a Sunday or a bank holiday. Quite often they didn't come in on Saturday either, did they? So you had one lot of letters, and I don't know. I mean, I wasn't completely prior to email. I was never working. I was fortunately too young to have done that, but it used to be that we got, a handful, I would imagine if I'd been running my business today, we'd have a handful of letters a day, not the barrage of emails that we get today. Now, ultimately, we live in a finite life. Time is our most valuable resource. So if we live in a finite life, how can we deal with what essentially is an infinite inbox? Now, I say essentially an infinite inbox, and it is because if you get to inbox zero, that magical moment, because you've spent a day going, right, I'm going to power through all of these, I'm going to be super efficient, I'm going to get through all my emails, I'm going to reply to them all, bam, done. Guess what? The more efficient you become at replying to emails, the more emails you get. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it is the scourge of so many business owners and professionals in practice today. And the best example I can give you of that is when we were trying to get super fast broadband in Seaton, the village that our business used to be based in Rutland. I remember having an email conversation with the head of BT Business at gone midnight. Now, that was great for me because trying to get super fast broadband into a small village in the smallest county in the country was a challenge. And when I got engagement, I was going to make the most of that engagement. But was that valuable time being spent by the head of BT Business? No, absolutely it wasn't. It was great for me. It was horrific time management for him. So it's absolutely one of the most powerful things you can delegate is your inbox. Now, you can set up rules. Rules are fantastic. So anybody that in my team that emails me, it goes into a separate folder, because if they email me rubbish, I'll tell them they're emailing me rubbish and tell them to stop. But you can't tell other people to stop emailing you quite so easily. So you can set rules to make sure that emails from certain people go into certain folders. And that's really effective. You're using artificial intelligence to help you outsource your inbox, but ultimately there is still going to be a whole load of stuff that ends up in your inbox that you shouldn't ever be dealing with, or you should only be dealing with once in a blue moon. So part of my email strategy that my PA uses is I have a buffer email folder. So anything that's kind of vaguely important but not time sensitive goes into that buffer email folder. I'll look at that probably once a month. And yes, I missed the odd thing as a result of it. But do you know what? I gain so much more by the time it saves me. So think about how you can outsource your inbox, because it really is one of the biggest drags in our business life today. So there was a few ideas on how you can delegate more. And delegation is such a powerful tool that the more you do it, the better you get at it. And just sort of coming back to that, I suppose, when you delegate to people, the idea is to delegate to people that are actually going to be better at that task than you are. That doesn't mean they won't make mistakes in the same way that you could have quite easily made mistakes. We tend to be very good at dealing with our own mistakes with stuff, but less good at dealing with other people make them. Oh, I could have done it better myself. But equally, we forget that we also make mistakes. So, but ultimately, even the odd mistake is about them learning. And ultimately, if you've delegated it to the right person, they will do that job better than you would have ever done it. So let's look at one final principle. And this is a principle from the Epic Business Blueprint, which is all about enjoying business more. And for this, I want to talk a little bit about the business life cycle, because our business does go through a life cycle. It's born, it goes through infancy, and very much like a human, it has different stages in life. So I want to explain a little bit about this, because by understanding this business life cycle, you can see how innovation can really help you improve your business. So obviously at birth, it's a brand new business and not much is going on, but it very quickly moves into toddler status. And Toddler status, it doesn't really give you anything back, just some grief and the pride of ownership, really. It's a race for survival, and it needs 100% of your attention. It tends to crash around from one thing to another and causes as much chaos as it solves. But the company is learning to walk at this stage. And as the company grows, money is tight. It's very much a hand-to-mouth business. And cash flow is the biggest restraining factor in a business in the toddler stage. That said, your people and your brand are growing and your business is learning to run. Now, a stage I'm very aware of in my household at the moment is the teenager stage. And as your business hits teenager stage, cash flow is less of a problem because of the business is starting to fly high and you think you're a genius. Almost everything you touch turns to gold. Your business is making progress and you're making good sales, but not necessarily great profits at this stage. One of the biggest problems, though, is it still requires the business owner to run the business and often to generate the revenue. Teenagers also have a habit of taking way too many risks, as we know. Some pay off, but some don't. And these risks can be the making or breaking of your business. Because the business owner is still at the helm, there's also the risk that the lack of adequate management leads to the downfall of a business in the teenager stage. So from teenager, they're looking to get the business into young adult status. Those people that don't take too many risks in the teenage years progress through making healthy sales and building a stronger cash flow. That said, in the young adult stage, you'll still find that the processes and systems tend to be the thing that hold the business back. To progress, business owners need to make the systems more scalable and repeatable. It's also the stage where business owner is starting to step back from some of their roles, delegating more, as we just talked about earlier on. And it's at this stage that the profits really start to appear. But the stage we're all striving to get to in business is the mature adult stage. If this is the business in the prime of your life, it's at this stage that you have the systems in place to run the business smoothly. You've got strong growth that can continue. But it's also in a more sustainable fashion. The main characteristic here is that the business owner now has a management team in place, so that they're free to pretty much spend as much or as little time in the business as they choose. And it's at this mature adult stage that the business is worth its most. It is at its most valuable, it's most saleable. And this is essentially where you're aiming to get to and to stay in. So you've got to be about delegating to others, creating amazing and repeatable systems and having handsome profits to show for it. The company becomes less dependent on the founder, and it is, the mature adult stage is where we need to be. Unfortunately, businesses don't tend to stay there because, and some people would say that I definitely know a bit about this stage. The next stage is the midlife evaluation. The fact that I'm reading a book also at the moment called The Midlife Cyclist, maybe as a clue. But anyway, it's here that things start to break down. The company loses its way a little bit and continues to age. Old systems make it less and less dynamic. And from that stage, it then turns into an aging business where the breakdown continues to accelerate. Problems in the business seem to be from external causes rather than internal, and you tend to blame others for your shortcomings. But the most talented people at this stage tend to leave. And then you go into institutionalization, where essentially the organization is being kept afloat by outside help. And then, unfortunately, of course, the next stage is death. But there is a way to reverse aging in business. There's also a way to start to think about reverse aging in real life, in our longevity. But that's a different conversation for maybe trusted team workshops. One of the best examples I can give you of this is if we take Apple. So after Steve Jobs was booted out in 1985, the company started to age quickly. And it came close to collapse, and it probably got as far as institutionalization. But Steve Jobs was brought back in 1997 in order to save it. And he simplified the range, eliminating many of the options that customers had because they just created too much complexity. He then ramped up the innovation of the company, and it is that key. It's the innovation that is the key to leading. That led to the introduction of the iMac, then the iPod, then iTunes, then the iPhone, then the iPad. It was through this constant innovation that Steve Jobs brought Apple back from institutionalization back to the mature adult stage. Ironically, since Jobs' passing, there's an argument to say that it's crept back into midlife evaluation and maybe even aging. But then in more recent years, it's really again gone back into some more innovative moves, and it's kind of come back to its prime. Again, innovation is the key. So if you want to reverse aging in the business, it's vital that you're constantly looking for innovation. And the same applies to, I'm a keen cyclist, and Dave Brailsford did exactly this when he brought the success to the British cycling team in London 2012 and also to Team Sky, just through that, what he called marginal gains, looking for each of those different elements that he could use to improve the business. Or the business of cycling it was for him, but that's what we're looking for. And so we make a point of building a process around this in our business. It's called the Energy Meetings, which stands for Energized Never-Ending Growth Initiative. Bit of a mouthful, so energy is better. But we have a meeting once a month. When we were a smaller business, it used to be the whole team. Now it tends to be kind of more focused teams on each of the different areas. But we do a meeting once a month where we're working in the business on innovation of different areas as opposed to in the business. And I want to give you an example of those meetings, because there's actually quite a few of them. We have one that relates purely to what we call the backstage, what happens behind the scenes that the clients don't see. We have another one that relates to the front stage, what we do that clients do see. We have another one that I'll come on to in a minute. But one of the most powerful ones that we do is what we call the 10 by 10 by 10. And what we're looking at is, so this is the slightly more detailed version of the phenomenal process that I shared with you earlier. This is really everything that we do. It's just that we don't explain it to a client in this full detail usually. So we basically have these 8 steps that create our phenomenal process. And we want to look at how we can improve each of those steps just by 10%. So 10% on each of those bits is actually relatively easy. And that could be 10% more numbers, i.e. it could be 10% more leads going into the financial breakthrough call, which is the first stage. It could be, how could we increase the profitability by 10%? It could be, how could we make the process quicker by 10%? But the instinct is to think that if we make a 10% increase on each of those different elements, that we will have increased our business by 10%. And increasing our business by 10% year on year is a great thing, except that's not what happens here, because you get a compound effect. If you increase each of these different elements by 10%, you'll actually get an 80% increase in your business. Now, you probably won't achieve the 80% increase in your business, but it is one of the tools that has put us down to doubling our new business year on year for about 7 years on the trot. This was such an incredibly powerful meeting each year, and it's literally, you spend it with the team going through each element of the business, going, how can we make a 10% improvement to each of these different areas? It empowers them. It gives them the opportunity to really think outside the box and come up with suggestions that you might have never thought of in the business. It really is a brilliant meeting to do. And we do that every year in each of our businesses. Now, one of the other things about innovating is that you need to fail fast. Now, there's a brilliant book by one of my favorite authors called Matthew Syed, and one of his books is Black Box Thinking. And in Black Box Thinking, he talks about the Unilever Nozzle. Now, Unilever had make, amongst other things, washing powder, and they had a process that was not efficiently allowing them to. It was costing a lot of money and the sole problem was this nozzle, and they put the nozzle to the engineers, going like, you just need to fix this nozzle and make it better. And with all the wisdom that the engineers had, they couldn't make the improvements needed. And in an act of desperation, Unilever took the nozzle to their biologists and said, can you help us try and fix this problem? Well, the biologists had no understanding of what was wrong with the nozzle or the engineering behind what would make it right. But they did have a different understanding, and that was evolution. That's how biologists work and how they've been trained. So what they did was they took this nozzle and they made 100 variations of it. They took the best version of that variation and they made 100 variations of that one. Best version of that, 100 variations on that one. So without any knowledge of what it was that was going to solve the nozzle problem, they solved it purely by evolving the right nozzle. And it's absolutely a classic story of, sometimes we think that the best marketing that we are going to do is based around this particular principle. And yet actually what we find out later on is something that we didn't think was the right marketing at all, worked much better on the right fit client. So when you're evolving your business, it's really important that you try new things, you innovate, but you make sure you fail fast, you measure that, and you try again, and you evolve it into what is actually much more powerful. And in today's marketing world, it's never been easier because of things like Facebook. You can have 3 ads running alongside each other at the same time, going in front of the same audiences, and you go, right, okay, that one is working better. Let's make 3 versions of that, try those. Or, okay, this one works best, 3 versions of that. And you can evolve the most powerful marketing through purely through innovation and failing fast. So one of the other things that I think that brings innovation into your business is an idea that I picked up from one of the books that's on here, actually, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. And what the concept here, I read a lot of books, you've probably already worked out because I've mentioned quite a few already this morning. But I realized while sat reading Delivering Happiness on a beach in Crete, it was actually a good few years ago, that it would be incredibly powerful if my team were also reading these same books. Because if they read some of the book, we've always paid them to do more exams, pay them more to do exams and become more qualified in our sector. But it occurred to me that actually they would become much more valuable employees and team members if they read some of these incredibly powerful books. So I came back from this holiday in Crete and said, all right, good news, guys, I'm going to pay you more money if you read books. And in fact, Charlotte, who has worked for me for over 10 years, who's on this call this morning, actually, said, Charlie, can I just reiterate, are you telling me that you're going to pay me more money to read books? And I went, yep. She said, amazing. And so anyway, we've done that ever since. We get them to read all books that are what we put into what we call the learning library. It's a massive range of books. We recommend books that would be helpful for their role or their stage in development, but ultimately they can choose what books they read from that. And it just leads to a much more innovative, entrepreneurial mindset in the business. And that entrepreneurial mindset is incredibly powerful, because what is also really important is that you get your team working on the business, not just in the business. It's important that you do that as the business owner or as the business principal or as the professional in your practice. But actually, it's really important to get people inside your business working on the business too. Now, I said about how we do that with our energy meetings once a month. But one of the other things that we did was we asked them to do is once a month, we asked them to stop work, down tools, and to spend an hour thinking about how we can improve the business. It can be in the area that they work in. It can be something totally different. This is stolen from Google Time, by the way. Google do this just for a day rather than an hour. And it's in Google Time, where people could work on anything they wanted to, that both Google Mail and Google Maps were first thought up. So this working on the business is incredibly powerful, but particularly when combined with the learning library, because if they've read a book to qualify for their pay rise, they then have to write up just a few paragraphs on what they've learned from that book and how we might be able to apply that in our business. So it really becomes a very powerful concept, because you're building up a team of entrepreneurs within the business. And for energy, there's so many amazing books that you can do this for, and whether it's reading it, or I actually also like to build energy meetings around a book. One of the best that I can recommend doing that with is Influence. One of the most powerful books you will ever read. It just is absolutely brilliant, regardless of where you are in your business life at the moment. It will give you ideas as to how you can improve it. But reading influence it is great for them. But even better is to build it. When you find a book that's really powerful like that, build an energy meeting around it. It's one of the things that we've done. And again, one of the things I'll do in the Trusted Team is talk about how we can use the 6 principles of influence in our businesses to really make our business more successful. So one final thing that I want to talk about this morning before I wrap up is merging fun with business. Now, over the last few years, I think a lot of the fun has been drained out of business. That's a combination of regulators banning golf days and also the plague that we've all had to deal with for the last couple of years. But I've been massively passionate about trying to merge fun with business. Now, whether it's playing, or like here, this was me playing St. Enedot Golf Club, or that's not my photo actually, but there's an example of playing St. Enedot Golf Club, my favorite golf course in the UK, down in Cornwall, which I've played with clients a number of times. I've included business trips that include shark diving, so that is my photo. Cycling around Malibu, again, that the beach. There's just so many amazing things that you can do. And of course, if you're there for business, this is tax deductible. It should, business does not have to be a chore. You can actually have a business life that you love, doing the things that you love. And I really I think it's brilliant if you can think about, okay, these are the things I love. How can I somehow get those into my business life? So in quick wrap up for what we've talked about today, obviously I've talked about money and how if you don't have enough money in the business, you don't have enough leads flowing into the business, you can't do the things that you want. I've talked about a little bit about how if you don't have the work-life balance, then you will potentially lose your health, your relationships, and miss out on the things that you love. And then finally, if the fun is drained out of business and work becomes a chore, you'll never achieve the things that you could have done. And so I've taken one principle from the Profitable Business Plan, which was to look at how you can use partnerships to build your practice without actually having to work hard at finding new clients. The Free Life business model, we looked at how you can use delegation to improve our business going forward. And then finally, there's the Epic Business Blueprint, which is where we talked about, what did we talk about from the Epic Business Blueprint? I've just had a complete mind blank. We talked about, let's go back. Oh, we talked about innovation. Yes, sorry, that was, we talked about innovation and how innovating your business and knowing that you're getting constant, never-ending improvement in your business can actually allow you to enjoy that business much more. So this morning, I also wanted to share with you what we're about to launch as our new business, which is called the Trusted Team. And the Trusted Team is building a community of professionals in practice, so accountants, solicitors, financial planners, and other like-minded professionals, and also entrepreneurs where they're dealing directly with clients. It's about building a community really with 3 things in mind. First is about innovation. It's about constant, never-ending improvement in the business. It's about building strong partnerships with like-minded people that have the same clients as you, but that aren't in competition with you. And it's about merging business with fun and doing the thing, bringing more fun back into the business. And we do that by a couple of different mechanisms. We will be doing workshops. The workshops are every 2 months. Each of those workshops will have a guest speaker. I'll come on to that in a second. And then there'll also be some coaching principles around each one of those days. They will happen both in person and online. And not only will they give you ideas on how you can improve your practice, but also they will allow you to spend time with like-minded professionals building those strategic partnerships. It's time once every 2 months, a day every 2 months, to work on the business as opposed to in the business, which is so important. And it will allow you to bring back some fun into the workplace. So like I said, those workshops are every 2 months. There's guest speakers there, and it really is about innovating the practice. But one of the things that I will talk a bit about is that there will be at each section or each event, There will be a piece on health, well-being, and longevity, because I think that's a really important piece of the jigsaw. Ultimately, if you want to be want to have a healthy business, you need to be a healthy business owner. And then there will also be elements where we talk about valuable resources, whether that be books and those sorts of things. We've got some amazing guest speakers lined up. A few examples are that Georgia Kirk, who has helped many people publish books, but also spends a lot of time helping people create podcasts and things like that. So she's brilliant at marketing herself as the expert. Michelle Hoskins, who the financial planners on here will know almost certainly. Little Miss Wow is amazing at helping people improve their practices. And Andy Harrington, world-renowned speaker, amazing speaker when it comes to teaching you how things like public speaking or a one-to-many approach as opposed to a one-to-one approach can allow you to massively upscale your business. All incredible speakers, all lined up for those workshops. And then I mentioned the events. The events will take a variety of forms. There will be golf days, because I think the events are really important, because we all know if we sit down over a coffee and have a chat with, a potential professional partnership, it can be a good conversation, but it's a much better conversation, and a much better relationship is built by spending a day on the golf course with them, or having a lovely meal out with them, or a day at the races. And so this is what we plan to do. We're going to have, throughout the year, we're going to have a series of events that try to cater for all tastes. There will be golf days. There'll be some cycling. We might even do a Land's End to John O'Groats as a team organized event. There'll be multi-day things like skiing, maybe a day at the races or at a spa, fine dining opportunities as well, because all of those things that we can bring together. Firstly, it's tax deductible fun, which we all like. And secondly, it's about really strengthening those relationships. And then one final thing that we'll be doing with the Trusted Team is, in addition to those workshops every couple of months, we'll be doing what we call the learning lunches. And that's where we'll take a particular theme and just, this will all be done remotely, and you can just dial in while you eat your lunch and pick up some principles from, I've done them in the past on books like Dan Pink's When, which is amazing. Why We Sleep by Matt Walker, also amazing book. The most powerful business book I've ever read, Traction. We'll do one on that as well. Just trying to, again, give you some ideas in sort of 45 minutes that you can then go, right, okay, that's really useful, I can take that away. What we will also ask members of the Trusted Team to do is to speak at the Trusted Team, at the learning lunches as well. So if you've got a particular element of your business that you want to share, you don't have to do this, by the way, but if you want to, you can. It's a great opportunity to let other partners know about what you're doing in your business and how you're helping your clients. So a quick example of one partnership that we built up a few years ago. So this was a 6-partner firm of accountants that we started working with. And of those partners, really 3 were engaged in the process, 3 less so. In the first 18 months of working with them, they managed to refer, as they were a bigger business than we were. By the way, this was a few years ago. So this was when Efficient Portfolio was just me as an advisor, as opposed to being a few more of us nowadays. But they referred 30 clients to us over the course of 18 months. We generated an additional £288,000 worth of fee income because of those introductions. Of that, we gave them £72,000 back. So that was £72,000 more money that they had in their bank account for doing no work. We obviously had to do a fair bit of work for the fees that we got. In addition to them giving us 30 referrals, we also gave them 8 back. We increased their fee work with their own existing clients, because some of the work that we did meant that they could get involved and do more work as well. And ultimately, their clients were happier because they were being looked after in an even more detailed way. So these partnerships can work incredibly well, whether there's fee sharing agreement in place. Obviously, I know solicitors are less keen on doing that because of their regulatory or their regulator accountant. It is possible, by the way, if it's a motivator, but generally it doesn't seem to be for solicitors. Accountants, much more commercial. They tend to want the split. But these are the sorts of partnerships that can work. And it was just 18 months of working together with 3 engaged partners in a firm. So the logistics of the trusted team and the workshops that we're going to be doing. So the events, by the way, the golf days and things like that, you pay for those as and when you want to be a part of them, because ultimately they all cost different amounts of money, and we we don't want you to be paying for a golf day if you don't play golf. But also you're able to bring guests to those. So you might say, well, actually, I'd really like to bring this other strategic partner or this other client to that particular golf day or whatever it is. So those are paid for ad hoc. For the workshops, once we go live properly, the fee will be £7,455 per year plus the VAT. However, what we think is easier to do is to get that paid monthly. So that will be £621 per month. But what we're going to do is we're going to launch a founder member discount. And so that founder member discount is 20% off. So if you want to sign up and join our Trusted Team program, it'll actually be £497 per month. And that will be a lifetime discount for you as a founder member. Because as I say, we don't even launch this until September. The first workshop will be on in September. And like I say, you can dial into, you can come to those in person. We would encourage you to come to those in person, but they will be available online for the odd one that you can't do in person. But for some people, geography is going to be an issue. Getting to the Midlands to get to these events is going to be more tricky. So we also, if you only want to do online, then we have a discounted rate of which is £100 a month cheaper, so £397 per month online only. And that'll still be getting the same guest speaker, same workshop experience, albeit through breakout rooms and through Zoom, as opposed to in person. I know from personal experience, doing the in-person piece is more powerful, but I also know for some people, the way, the time allowed or the geography just will mean that online is much more realistic. There is a selection criteria. We need to make sure that, so this is not open to everyone. We don't want we don't want this to turn into the same sort of networking-y type thing where you've got your guy from the utility warehouse and the lady that makes her own perfumes. That is not the right fit for this type of model. We only want professionals in practice and entrepreneurs dealing directly with clients one-to-one. So there is a selection criteria that we will go through. If you are interested in signing up for that, all you need to do is email us at hello@thetrusted.team, hello@thetrusted.team, say you're interested, and we'll send you out a form to find out if you fit the right fit profile. And at that point, we'll get you on board to give you all the dates for the first year's worth of workshops, and also the events for 2023 as well. I did mention briefly the Accelerate business, where we're helping financial planners regain their time, delegate more, and allow them to focus on their element. So that is a business that again will go live in September. It's not fully live now, but we are now starting to speak to clients to find, to line up the work. We've actually got a few clients already lined up, which is absolutely brilliant. If you're interested in that, at the moment, that is only supporting financial planners, and it's supporting them in, I want to call it paraplanning on steroids, in that it is paraplanning, but it's also about process optimization. So when I talked about things like the 10 by 10 by 10, it'll be looking at taking you through processes like that to help you improve your own processes, as well as then taking stuff off your desk to allow you to focus on your element. In due course, we plan to launch it for accountants and perhaps solicitors too. So if you fall into those categories and you're interested, again, drop us a line. It might not be quite by September, but we're interested in looking at that sort of side of things in the future. Just drop us a line if you're interested in that. Now, what I'm really grateful for you all dialing in this morning. There's going to be a bit of time to answer any questions. So if you want to put those in the chat box now, then you please do. It just leaves me to say thank you very much for dialing in. I hope there's been a few ideas in there that can help you improve your practice, and because ultimately it is about progress, not perfection. It's about the science of achievement But as we found out from Uncle Bill, it is also about the art of fulfillment. And so I really hope that there's some ideas in there. I'd love for you guys to be a part of the Trusted Team business, to see you at those workshops and see you guys evolve and grow your business over the coming years. And to enjoy some amazing experiences with you, whether that's playing golf, whether that's cycling Land's End to John O'Groats, whether it's going on a ski weekend, whether it's eating food at a 2 Michelin star restaurant. All those things would be incredible ways to build stronger relationships between you guys as professionals in practice and as entrepreneurs. So I'm going to open up for any questions. I will see if there's anything in the chat box. What was the email address for Accelerate again, please? So at the moment, I actually not in touch because it's not fully functional. I don't think because the website's not live yet. The best email address to use is matt@efficientportfolio.co.uk. So matt@efficientportfolio.co.uk is the best email address just to use to register your interest. Accelerate team.co.uk will be live soon, but it's not quite live now. So good question. Thank you for that. That was David. So yeah. Thank you, Susie, for the feedback. James, thank you. Automation to be a great time saver. Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the things about using rules with your email. You're automating processes, aren't you, to say, this is what we want to happen. Automation is a fantastic way of time saving as well, and is something else that we will be talking about on the Trusted Team workshops, including things like how artificial intelligence is going to really transform our businesses, and actually how other elements of technology, we really need to be aware of technology and the changes that are coming down the line, whether that be AI. I've said in our industry, but it applies to all the professionals in practice, our next biggest competitor isn't the bigger firm down the road. It's Google, it's Apple, it's Amazon. It's coming. They're going to come after our game, and it'll be done through AI. And it will be a game changer. So that's something that we want to be talking about and being prepared for, and even taking advantage of. Yeah, good question, Mike. Thank you. We will email you a recording out, and we'll email you a link to Matt's email as well. But Mike, yeah, we'll get you. I'll get Matt to get in contact with you about that. Belinda, yeah, we'll send you a copy of the recording out to everyone that's watched it live, and then you can go back and digest bits again, as a few people have said. So yeah, we'll make sure you get the recording. We are doing the webinar again in a month or so's time. So if you really didn't get everything that you needed to and you want to dial back in again, you're very welcome to. But I think, time is a valuable resource. Just, watch the bits that you felt powerful again on the recording, and then come to the Trusted Team. If this is what we can achieve in a little over an hour, imagine what you can achieve by doing it over a day. I've been going to a coaching workshop for the last 14 years. In fact, it's probably it is just a bit over, nearly 15 years, and doing a day a quarter every quarter for nearly 15 years. And at that time, working on the business is incredibly powerful. Charlotte's just put in a message to say she'll be sending a recording in the next 24 hours, along with the contact details for both the Trusted Team and Accelerate. Thank you, Charlotte. Efficient as always. See the power of delegation. And if you want her help, just email charlotte@efficientportfolio.co.uk, and we will be able to help. But that's it. I will leave you to go about your day. I hope you have an amazing day. Don't forget, this is one of your 4,000 weeks. Make the most of it. And also don't forget that if you make the same decisions today as you made yesterday, you'll get the same results tomorrow as you got today. So have an amazing day. Go about thinking about the science of achievement as well as the art of fulfillment. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person at a Trusted Team workshop in September or some other time in the future. Have a great day. Thank you very much.